Badminton world champion Loh Kean Yew gets a hero's welcome on his return to the Singapore Sports School. The Straits Times' first ever NFT auction raises more than $20,000 for the ST School Pocket Money Fund. And in Living Well, why the bond between human handlers and their canine partners strengthened during the pandemic. Good evening, you're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Dimana. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. Badminton world champion Loh Kean Yew receiving a hero's welcome today at the Singapore Sports School. The national shuttler paying a visit to the school where he spent a number of years as a student athlete under a scholarship. In a lovely gesture, Loh donated his championship-winning shirt to the school. It's the shirt he wore when he beat India's Kidambi Srikanth on December 19th to become the first Singaporean to win a BWF World Championships title. During a Q&A session with students, Loh encouraged every single one of them to reach for their dreams.
I was once like you could also be here next time. And for me, the reason why I'm back here, I was telling Coach Jasmine that is it you're appreciating me or I'm appreciating you, I don't know. But I come back because I wanted to be here to give back, to share my juniors, my experiences and all. And I hope that you all can also become a better player or better person.
Indeed, a very busy afternoon for the badminton world champion, but he made time to speak to the Straits Times afterwards. And this is his message for all young badminton players out there.
I hope you enjoy playing badminton and even training, because if you don't enjoy the process, it's very hard to play. So yeah, go out there, have fun and just chase your dream.
Despite the uncertainty caused by the ongoing pandemic, Singaporeans can be optimistic and should not be paralyzed by fear as things are improving. That is the message from President Halimah Yacob as the year comes to an end. In a 4-minute speech uploaded on Facebook, Madam Halimah called for people to display resilience so that Singapore can bounce back, as she outlined some of the challenges the nation faced this year.
We have been living with the COVID-19 pandemic for 2 years now. It has been difficult, especially for those who have lost their jobs or suffered pay cuts. Businesses are affected too. We experience many restrictions to our movement and daily activities. I know that many are tired and long for normalcy, which is perfectly understandable. But we still face great uncertainty, especially when there is still so much that is unknown about the Omicron variant. However, it is not all gloom and doom. Things are improving. We do not have to live in a climate of paralyzing fear. As we enter 2022, we can live our lives with greater optimism.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says the risk posed by the Omicron variant is still very high after COVID-19 case numbers shot up by 11% globally last week. It adds consistent evidence shows that the new variant has a growth advantage over the Delta variant, with a doubling time of 2 to 3 days, and attributes this rapid growth rate to likely be a combination of both immune evasion and intrinsic increased transmissibility of the variant. Giving an update on the vaccination exercise for younger kids in a Facebook post earlier today, Education Minister Chan Chun Seng says more than half of primary 4 to 6 pupils have booked their appointments since the slots opened up last week. Of this, several thousands have already received their first dose in the past 2 days. Adding that he understands many parents are hoping to secure the weekend slots, Mr. Chan encourages parents to consider booking an appointment on Mondays to Thursdays and reassures that their child will be covered by medical leave if they get vaccinated during school hours. The Straits Times' first NFT auction has raised $21,564, which will be donated to the ST School Pocket Money Fund. Here's what went under the hammer. An infographic on cryptocurrencies by ST artist Cheng Chun Hyong sold for $3,388. An illustration titled Bullish Bitcoin by ST artist Deng Koi Miel went for $4,088. Another illustration, The Permanence of Cats by ST artist Manuel Francisco, also went for $4,088. And a column by opinion editor Grace Ho, headlined Own a Piece of the Metaverse, sold for $10,000. Grace joins us now. Grace, how did the online auction go? Are you pleased with the result?
Hi, yeah, we're actually quite pleased with the result. Not knowing, having done this for the first time, what the results would be like. We had 59 potential bidders who registered, but the auction actually got off to quite a quiet start when it opened, and it stayed that way for the first few days. So those of us who were organizing it were watching the bids kind of slowly go upwards, and we wondered, is everyone away on staycation, busy with Christmas? But then we also thought we might see a late surge in activity, since it's a very Singaporean thing to do last-minute shopping. And indeed, we saw more bids placed towards the end of the auction period. In fact, close to half of the total number, 28 bids, were placed yesterday on the last day, and especially in the closing hour before midnight. So we've now got 4 different winning bidders. And I think for some of the pieces, you saw active bidding really in the last 1 hour, with 2 competing bids for one of the pieces, just 2 and 3 minutes away from closing time. So I think in terms of results, I think it's comparable to the very few charity NFT auctions which have been held here, where the bidding is done, purely using crypto and not cash, which is what most people are used to. The amounts are definitely not jaw-dropping compared to your more well-known bathing apes and pudgy penguin NFTs. But firstly, ST is not exactly in the business of minting NFTs, and the scene here is still quite new. So overall, yeah, we're happy with the amount, but also the willingness of the successful bidders to actually come out and identify themselves and be quoted for a wrap-up article on the auction. And they all agreed that there is an educational angle to this, and the fact that it also required a know your customer process of verification and identification also makes it a bit more legit.
So Grace, I think we're on to a good start, right, with the auction and all that. So will ST be holding another NFT auction soon?
Personally, I hope not. For something that exists in the online space, we actually did a lot of paperwork for this because of the legal documentation required. But definitely, beyond the immediate term, it's a lot easier to do now that we know how to do it. So never say never. But I think a more meaningful way of extending this is to look at how we can maybe digitalize some of our older ST articles, your first page stories over the years, major headlines and so on. I think that'd be an interesting next project.
The Straits Times' opinion editor, Grace Ho. The COVID-19 pandemic has been disrupting lives and routines for nearly 2 years. For blind and visually impaired Singaporeans, it means having to rely more on their guide dogs. In this week's Living Well segment, multimedia journalist Gregory Liu reports on the very special relationship between dog and handler.
Dogs have been called a man's best friend, and these guide dogs most certainly are, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Meet Orinda and Claire, 2 Labradors from Guide Dogs Singapore, the social service agency which partners people who are blind or visually impaired with guide dogs. When on duty, Orinda and Claire help their handlers Sophie and Hongsen navigate their surroundings and bring them where they need to go safely.
Orinda is my companion wherever I go. So when I am out going to work, or going to meet a friend for lunch or any meal, she is the one that is always there with me. When I move around the cane, firstly, I'm completely on my own, so having to get from point A to point B is completely reliant on me. All it does, it detects the obstacle for me, but it doesn't tell me how do I get around it. So with Orinda, if say there was a construction site along the pavement, it's very easy for her to just find a way around it. Sometimes she does it so seamlessly, I didn't even have to tell her. She sees the obstacle even before we get to it, and she just avoids it nicely for me.
In Singapore, there are 5 such active dog and handler teams, with another 3 dogs in training and 6 people on Guide Dogs Singapore's waitlist. The dogs have been crucial in helping their handlers adapt to the COVID-19 measures such as safe entry in malls and public spaces. The teams have found themselves having to adapt to alternative routes.
That actually created quite a stress for our handlers. There have been requests to us to train them on how to get from like the bus station to the train station without having to go through the shopping centres. Others would include things like managing the dogs at home, especially for handlers who used to be working out but now they work from home. Such big changes can cause anxiety in the dogs, especially if they're so used to being out and about.
For someone with visual impairments, one big part of it is really the mobility aspects of it. How do we orientate ourselves within the environments? How do we navigate? Claire does a great job of helping me because she can recognize the human flow, so she knows to direct me, and we go through we follow the people in front of us, and we queue up in an orderly manner, we enter the mall, we check in.
Guide dogs have also been a huge help in supporting their handlers' mental health during these uncertain times.
During the circuit breaker period last year, it was also very beneficial to me to know that I still had responsibilities that I had to meet, such as taking Claire out for walks.
While COVID-19 continues to grip the world, one thing it has strengthened is the bond between human and canine.
I guess she sees me as, I guess she's the one that I can rely on the most when I really need her. And yeah, I guess that's all I really need from her.
Gregory Liu for The Straits Times.
You can learn about guide dogs in Singapore and how they help their visually impaired handlers navigate the challenges brought about by the pandemic. Go to str.sg/livingwell for more stories. Those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.